like to call to order the special board meeting, public hearing, fiscal year 24 budget on Monday, September 18th, 2023 at 6:59 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mrs. McGinley?
Here.
Mr. De Vera?
Here.
Okay, take it away, Pam.
Good evening. This evening we are presenting as required by Illinois School Code our fiscal 24 budget. As a reminder, it is for the 2023-2024 school year. As we talk about the fiscal 24 budget process, the school district is required to have a tentative budget on display for 30 days prior to adoption. Board of Education approved the fiscal 24 tentative budget to be on display commencing Tuesday, August 8th. A public hearing date was also set and approved for this evening, September 18th at 6:55 p.m. And it's also required that a legal notice be published in a newspaper of local circulation. And for us, that is the Chicago Tribune, Lake County News Sun. For our community as well as for the Board of Education, in full transparency, this is a copy of the ad that was run in the Chicago Tribune, Lake County News Sun, indicating a public hearing for this evening. The fiscal 24 budget process includes that the budget must be approved by the Board of Education by September 30th. It is an action item for this evening, September 18th, 2023. The final budget must also be submitted to the Regional Office of Education as well as to the Illinois State Board of Education within 30 days of its approval. The revenues, as we look at our fiscal 24 budget, approximately 31% of our local property tax dollars are included in our tax collection on the revenue side. We also are recipients of evidence-based funding. We also are very pleased and grateful for the state and federal grants that the district receives. We've also had some support with interest on investments through the Board of Education and allowing us to do so, as well as rebates from our procurement card, and we also are a recipient with some remaining ESSER 3 funding. As we look at our evidence-based funding, which is the majority of our funding as a school district, we have been identified as a Tier 1 district. Our fiscal 23 Tier 1 evidence-based funding was $74,387,961.55. As a reminder to the board as well as the community, that is the number that I utilize in the tentative budget, because at the time of the presentation of the tentative budget, we did not have our fiscal 23 confirmed number. We now have received that information, which is included in the budget. The new money that is being provided to us is $3,161,453.25. So our fiscal 24 Tier 1 evidence-based funding total amount is $77,549,414.80. According to Illinois State Board of Education, we are at 73% of our adequacy funding target. As we look at expenditures, as I've shared with the board and the community in the past, we are in the people business. With that being said, approximately $72 million of our funding goes towards salaries. We fund salaries out of Fund 10, the Education Fund, Fund 20, Operation and Maintenance, as well as Fund 40, Transportation Fund. I've also retained a salary placeholder for some remaining open positions. We also have health care costs there, which is part of our contractual agreement to our employees. We've also included the 2 classroom mobile unit for the 24-25 school year in preparation for that transition of our partner school model, in addition to the $4 million transfer that the Board of Education approved September 11th, that interfund transfer. As we look at our operating funds identified are Fund 10, the Education Fund, Fund 20, Operations and Maintenance, Fund 40, Transportation, and Fund 70, Working Cash. The difference between the revenues and expenditures is to the positive of $3,484,929. Our fiscal 24 budget is balanced according to our operation funds. This is the cover letter that on the bottom portion of this, the Board of Education, pending how you vote for the fiscal 24 budget, this is the cover letter that you will see. And according to the numbers that have been inputted as presented this evening, we have a balanced fiscal 24 budget here in front of you. Also, we are required, this is another document within the spreadsheet showing that again we have a fiscal 24 balanced budget. As we talk about the unknowns with the budget at the Finance Committee table this evening, we talked about a position that we are required to have, but it's an unfunded mandate. So though that's always an unknown within our budget process. There are unfunded mandates that we must respond to. We also respond to property tax collection. We can anticipate what we would receive, but we don't actually know. We look at an average. Also, if there's any property tax appeals that might be presented within the community, certainly the district is very responsive to a seat at the table when those come through. We also want to respond to student and staff needs throughout the school year. We also know that there may be some unanticipated transition costs with PLEVAC coming back home to our community, and then also there may be some unanticipated staffing changes that we'll have to respond to. So overall, our fiscal 24 budget summary, our expenditures do not exceed our revenues. Our evidence-based funding EBF model, we are retaining a Tier 1 status. Also want to continue to monitor staff and student needs for this school year. We will maintain fiscal prudence when we make those decisions with purchasing. Also keeping in mind our responsibility and commitment to the Round Lake Board of Education policies. And at this point, with all of that information, I am recommending to the Board of Education for your review and approval a balanced 24 fiscal budget. I want to talk a little bit about the ISB financial profile score ratings. There are 4 of them. Recognition is the highest rating. Review is next in line. Early warning is 3rd, and then the final ranking would be watch. As we look at Round Lake Board of Education and the fine work and hard work that our community as well as our staff has done, fiscal 19 through fiscal 22, we have earned, received, been awarded recognition status. That is the highest ranking according to Illinois State Board of Education. It is on a 4.0 scale. So as you look at those profile numbers, we are increasing from 3.6 to 3.7. Our fiscal 23, which is last school year's announcement, is to be determined as we are still undergoing our required audit by the district auditors. And in conclusion, this is one of my favorite quotes: an investment in knowledge pays the best interest, Benjamin Franklin. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those.
Any questions? Mrs. McGinley, any questions?
No questions. I'll report on this when we go to the regular board agenda, where it's the action item.
All right. Hearing no questions. Opportunity for public comment. Members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Electronic public comments are accepted up till noon the day of the scheduled regular meeting. The public commenter will be contacted to confirm identity. Once confirmed, the electronic public comment will be provided to all board members in written form. Any electronic? Nope. Any public comment for this portion? Okay, hearing none, we will go ahead and adjourn this part of our special meeting at 7:07. On to the next. I would like to call to order this regular meeting of the Round Lake Area School District Board of Education on September 18th, 2023 at 7:08 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Kindler? Here. Mr. De Vera?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mrs. McGinley?
Here.
Okay, can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I need an motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. DeVero,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Dewitt.
Yes.
Motion carries. And now we're on to our special recognition time. Athletes of the Month for August.
Good evening. Happy to be here and excited to present our first two athletes of the month for the 2023-24 school year. Starting things off is our August female athlete of the month from the girls tennis team, Aerith Huerta Torres. Here to recognize Aerith is head girls tennis coach Adam Davis.
Board members, Dr. Mendoza, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Karolzak, thank you for having us. As I was sitting there thinking what I was going to say to present Aerith for Athlete of the Month, I've been a tennis coach here since 2009, and Aerith is the first female tennis player that is recognized for this award. So I'm pretty excited to nominate and have Aerith win. Aerith is our August Athlete of the Month. Her record in the month of August was 6-1 as a singles player. Aerith, unfortunately for me, is a senior this year. I'm going to miss her tremendously. I think this team is going to miss her leadership, her hard work, her discipline. She embodies everything that a coach at Round Lake or any other school would like to have. Aerith is one of those players that I can just say, Aerith, get the team, let's stretch, let's warm up, let's get what we need to get done. And she knows exactly what the expectation is for the team, what my expectation is, and she wholeheartedly adheres to that every day. So she's very worthy of an Athlete of the Month. Aerith is a amazing young woman. I think she's got a great many things she's going to accomplish in her life. She's a very hardworking student, athlete at Round Lake High School, and I think she embodies what this institution is all about, and I'm very, very happy to present her tonight.
Thank you, Aerith and Coach Davis. Now for our male athlete of the month for August from the boys soccer team, Georgie Morales. Here to recognize Georgie is head coach Hugo Teles.
All right, this time I'm not going to draw a blank. Congratulations to Georgie. Just for the month of August, in his 4 games, he scored 4 goals and 4 assists. Playing in a tournament where New Trier, probably 2 of the teams that were in there we played against, they're probably ranked in the top 10 in our state. Talking with the coaches, they've had said, we studied number 10, and he plays what's on film. Hearing Coach Davis with his player of the month, Just going over with Georgie, last year some of the teams that we lost to that we came into this year, he didn't forget. And I think for a lot of us here in school, a lot of our kids forget about what our pride is. And Georgie, after practice, given a break, and after we win a game, he reminds the kids, remember what they did last year to us? This is not just one game that we celebrate. We work for the next game. And I'm happy that he's one of our team captains. He's a leader, but just more or less, he has a lot of pride in him, and he's got Round Lake pride. This Thursday we played Wakanda. I know I'm going a little bit ahead, but he was injured, and there was no way that he was going to sit out. And we were down 1-0 with 10 minutes left. We scored 2 goals, and they were both scored by him. Beautiful goals. If you follow us on Instagram, you can see all those goals. But again, athlete of the month, he's well deserving of it, and I'm sure this is not going to be the only time we'll be up here. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the less fun, more boring business stuff. All right, first communication is from me to you guys. We are rescheduling our April 8th meeting from April 8th, 2024. We are bumping it up to April 1st, Happy Fool's Day, April 1st, 2024, because several of us will be out at the national conference. So we have that. And then Ethan's up with our summer athletic update.
All right, long time no see. Happy to be up here and give you my quarterly report, just going over our summer camps and some of the other things that were going on this summer with the athletic department. And I forgot my glasses, but I can read that. Really exciting. We had over 1,000 kids registered for summer camp this year. According to my records, that's the most we've had in the last 6 years. Last year we were in the high 900s, and that was the most we had in 5 years. So part of that is every single one of our sports offered a youth camp this year, which we're really excited about, and it's something that we're looking to continue to grow. We even expanded the power camp, which is a weightlifting and speed development camp that's run by a variety of our coaches to our 7th and 8th graders this year. So really excited about the growth of our summer camp numbers and the collaboration between the high school and the middle schools in that effort. Along those same lines, in terms of expanded opportunities for our kids, we've started girls flag football this year, and they're off to a great start. They won one game in their season kickoff jamboree at not Stag High School. I'm drawing a blank on the name. A STEM academy on the south side of Chicago, and I'm totally drawing a blank. But anyways, they won one and lost 2 very close ones. And then they opened their regular season with a big win at Grays Lake Central. played Stevenson tough the following week, but fell short, and won last Wednesday against Larkin High School. And their next game is this Wednesday night here at 6 o'clock. It's their senior night against Harlem High School. So excited about that. And we have a number of individuals from both the boys and girls side of our golf club competing this fall. We actually have 2 young ladies competing in the NLCC Conference Championship tomorrow as individuals. So golf is still currently a club here, but it is moving in the right direction to be reinstituted as a sport in the near future, hopefully. So we're excited about that. Quick comparison of our fall sports registration numbers for the last 2 years in comparison to this year. You can see that they have increased each year, and we had 390 registered for fall sports this year, largely because of boys and girls golf and girls flag football, but also all of our numbers in the fall either held steady or increased. So excited about that. Kicked off the year with what I thought was just a fantastic event, our Back to School Bash, highlighted by not just scrimmages by all of our fall sports, but also collaboration with our fine arts and our activities to have the activity fair. And some great leadership by example. Dr. Mendoza, as you can see, was the first person in the dunk tank that day. He warmed up the water for everybody else. It was pretty cold from what I understand. I was too busy running the whole event to get in. I really wanted to, but just didn't quite have the time. But a lot of fun. We had a number of our clubs hosting booths and games. We had karaoke, we had face painting, we had fun with drones. I mentioned the dunk tank. We had a mascot race between some of the scrimmages, and then, as you know, we finished the evening off with fireworks. So we're really excited how that event went, not just to showcase the hard work that our kids put in over the summer, but just kind of invigorating event and welcoming the community on campus. Some other developments this summer and into the fall along the lines of culture and climate. We started a partnership with Positive Coaching Alliance, and they'll be running or providing some of the curriculum that we'll use for our head coach professional development this year during Institute Days, as well as our student athlete leadership team, which will be meeting once a month starting this month. We're continuing the Panther mascot team. This is a collaboration between Student Council and Panther Crew to make sure that all home contests, athletic contests, and community events have our mascot at them. I mentioned the student athlete leadership team. We're rebooting that this year. That first meeting is actually this week, so I'm excited about that. And we're continuing the Panther Pride program that we launched last year. That first week of Fall Panther Pride, this is Perseverance Week, started today, emphasizing our core values and giving agency and ownership and voice to our student athletes in their athletic programs. Some things that some of our teams have done this summer that I wanted to highlight, just some neat things I think they're doing to build the right kind of culture and character education in their programs. Our football team, it was actually the morning after the Back to School Bash, did decal day, and that's where they had members of the family come in or people who are important to them in their lives and help them put their decals on their helmets. And Coach Malazzo, you can actually see a photo of him there talking to our players and their families about how the symbolism of the logo and the importance of putting it on the helmet, and when they run out on the field with that logo, they're not just representing themselves or the football program, but they're representing our entire community. And so that was a really cool thing. We fed them, they ate together, they did the logos together, and that was really cool. Our girls basketball program during their summer camp, you can see a photo of some of the team winners there with their posters. They tracked with stickers on these posters all kinds of things, not just attendance, but also completion of workouts in the weight room, going to a summer league game, picking up garbage in the hallway. Basically the types of character development that they want to see from members of their program. They turned all of it into a competition the whole summer. And they had, I can't remember if the winners got hot dogs or ice cream. I think it was both. But it was fun, but it emphasized not just competition, but also emphasized some of the core values that we're trying to teach our kids through sport. Our boys basketball program developed a Big Brother program through their summer camp for their youth campers. I think it's on the next slide, but our girls soccer team every summer does this fun thing where they have different theme days. There's one here where they're dressed up as Ninja Turtles. It's hilarious. Our football team participated in a team building obstacle course this year. Our wrestling team took a trip to Wisconsin Oshkosh. No, not Oshkosh. Parkside. Sorry, Wisconsin Parkside to see a national level high school all-star tournament. But again, our coaches are using the platform of high school athletics to teach habits of excellence and skills that are going to benefit our kids long after they graduate from high school and finish their athletic careers. So really proud of that. Do I not have I guess I don't have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle picture up there. Gosh darn it. I'll find it and send it to you guys. Some things that we're doing along the lines of professional development for our coaches. In-season coaches meet with me one-on-one once a week. We are also, I have 2 programs that are already in the process of setting these up, but we are planning on every single one of our programs offering a coaching clinic to the middle school coaches in their respective sport this year. Peer coaching during our Block 3 professional development course, best practices for coaches. And I'm excited to announce that we're now set up to offer CPR and AED training in-house for all of our coaches. Larry Sire, one of our athletic trainers, got the necessary certification through the American Heart Association and has already started training all of our coaches so that every single one of our coaches will not only be trained but certified in basic life-saving skills, CPR and AED. So happy about that. Some highlights from our social media analytics over the summer. You can see the increase in follower status on our 3 platforms. We averaged 23 posts per the month per platform for June, July, and August. And the top liked posts were the first home soccer game and the back to school bash. In terms of outreach and partnerships in the community, we're scheduling more middle and elementary school events at the high school than probably ever before. And coordinating all of this through quarterly meetings between myself, the middle school athletic directors, and the assistant principals of student services at the middle schools. We've already scheduled all of the elementary school intramural jamborees to take place here at the high school, and anytime Round Lake Middle and McGee are playing each other, that's going to be hosted here at the high school. We've added a middle school intramural baseball club this year to try and build more interest early on in that sport and promote it and help the growth of our high school program. We have extended an invitation to participate in the high school's homecoming parade to all of our middle school athletic programs, and we're hopeful that they'll be marching alongside the high school sport that they're in. We think that'd just be really cool for those kids. and some other partnerships along those lines, partnering with the Round Lake Spartans youth football and cheer program. Had over 100 kids at our 3-day youth camp this year. They will be playing a number of home games in the stadium this fall. They've already done that on one occasion, and then in October they're actually going to get to play a night game on a Saturday evening, so that's going to be cool for them. And they participated in the Back to School Bash. That picture is from the Back to School Bash. They got to scrimmage under the lights, and some next steps, building similar partnerships with Avon Township baseball and softball and AYSO soccer. Oop, hit the wrong button. Another really cool partnership that we have continued to grow this year is that with the Chicago Bears and their youth outreach. We offered a youth camp for Round Lake and surrounding communities' youth football programs here that was hosted by the Bears in July. There were several hundred kids here, both flag and tackle football, and that was just a really cool, really exciting day. And the Bears made donations to all 3 of those youth football organizations as well. And then in the month of September, they're doing mini monster clinics. They're like obstacle courses. They actually did one at Ellis today, and the Bears are running these, and it's about their Play 60 initiative to get kids outside and exercising and all of that. And Kim Miller, the head of the wellness department, coordinated this with the help of Dr. Kibbins and the Chicago Bears. And the thing that I think is really cool about this is we have members of our flag football team and our tackle football team and students who are in good academic standing were volunteers helping. And what we did was, and this was our coach's ideas, which I thought was cool, the volunteers that helped at Ellis today were all students at Ellis. And so they're back at their school helping, and we're going to do that at all of our elementary schools with the Bears. So just a really, really cool partnership that we're continuing to grow with them. Some facilities updates. Hopefully you've seen some of these, but going through the district branding process and getting phase 1 vinyl on the windows at door 7 and the windows at the back of the commons overlooking baseball and softball, the doors of the storage shed, door 21, some windscreens going up in the stadium, and we have more that we hope to have up prior to the homecoming game in 2 weeks, so we're excited about that. And we're going to continue to create unified branding across campus using the branding approval process. And just a couple of fun celebrations from this summer. Vera Lindquist was a double medalist at the Special Olympics. Vera is always very, very outspoken in her support of Round Lake, even when she's competing for the Special Olympics. She says, well, I'm not representing Round Lake, but I am representing Round Lake. And so I want to give her a shout out. And then one of our team captains of the wrestling team, Grayson Conchio, competed for Team Illinois in the Greco-Roman National Championships this summer and was a key part in their bringing home the national championship trophy. So, congratulations to Vera and Grayson, and they're just both fantastic human beings and great student athletes that do a phenomenal job representing our athletic department, our school, and our community. So I wanted to give them a shout out. Does anybody have any questions for me?
What's the difference between freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling?
I have wrestling coaches to answer that question. Are any of them here? Mr. Pearson knows the answer to that. No leg attacks in Greco-Roman. There you go. Thanks, boss. Any questions about my summer update?
I have not a question, more of a comment.
Please go ahead.
As you talk about culture and climate, and we talk about even working with outside organizations for our students, I think it's important to note, and I just wanted to say I appreciate to see the cooperation with just internally seeing our football and cheerleaders on the field participating in our fine arts program. I'm happy to see them all working together so our students can participate in both athletics and fine arts.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's extremely important that we understand that we all work for our kids, and it's our job, it's our mission to make sure that we're giving them the most well-rounded high school experience we possibly can. So, Chrissy Cacciatore has been fantastic in working with us to make sure that we maximize those sorts of opportunities for our kids. And thank you to her for that.
Yes, thank you. It's really nice to see.
Okay, nothing else. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Next round of money. Our favorite topic, Dr. Kibbins. The floor is yours for the budget assumptions.
Dr. Kibbins, it's fine. I'm glad you're up there, but you could have used your table mic. Totally up to you.
Okay, here we go. The budget assumption process. So just a couple things to note, not only for the board table, but also for our community. There are some items that were on the finance committee agenda this evening. One in particular that is not listed in here, that is the 1.0 FTE special education anticipated position. Once that position becomes more of a live position for us, we'll certainly document that here. We're just communicating with the board about the need that potentially we may need that, but it is not reflected here in the budget assumption. There is one position that is reflected here, and it's very respectfully reflected as pending Board of Education approval this evening. We don't want to overstep what our responsibilities are, nor our authority, but we just want you to know that we're thinking about that those items would be approved tonight at the table. So as we look at the update for this evening, September 18th, there was a question at the Finance Committee meeting prior about investment income. Just a reminder for our board, that is at $1,500,000. As we look at really what is new to bring to your attention at a high level, line 9, we did have a typographical error there on the description of what line 9 was, the transfer funds from fiscal 23 to 24. We did have iPads listed there, and that was not what should have been listed there, so we've just cleaned up those words that are there, but the costs certainly remain the same. As we look at line 54, 1.0 Secretary 2 decrease, that's listed on line 54, and there are parentheses listed there to show as a credit. And as we look at line 55, a grant specialist increase, those costs are associated as well. Line 56 reflects a 1.0 ESL itinerant, again knowing what our authority level is, pending Board of Education approval this evening, September 18th, 2023. And with those additions, we are still in a positive budget assumption position of $1,785,100. Any questions or need for clarification on this evening's budget update?
If I could, no questions, but just wanted to report out that this was at the finance meeting earlier today. And again, Dr. Kibbins hit all the highlights regarding the fiscal 24 budget assumptions. Also regarding that there's an ask for the anticipated special education teaching assistant. And of course, keeping a balanced budget.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. Okay, moving on. The annual website posting of compensation reports.
So good morning, or good evening, good morning, goodness gracious. Every year, we have to bring forward the annual teacher and administrator salary benefit reports and the IMRF salary report for individuals who make over 75,000 and post those to our district website on or before October 1st. The board is required to review them before we do so, which is why I'm bringing it forward for you tonight. These are already contracts and benefits that have already been approved by the board previously. Any questions?
Awesome, thank you. All right, the multilingual education program presentation.
Miss Knapp, would it be easier with your computer to sit at the table? I just thought that might be a little bit more helpful to you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me present tonight some information about our multilingual education programs. This presentation, we will talk about different language program models, the specific ones we offer in our Round Lake district, focusing on the benefits of dual language and talking about different dual language models, and then some future program planning. So it's important to understand that all of our language programming is designed around our language community. When a new family registers to the district, they take a home language survey, and based on that home language survey, we have roughly 30 languages spoken across the district, with majority being English and Spanish speaking. Approximately 2,600 students are identified as English learners, also known as multilingual students, and that's approximately 41% of all of our students in the district. According to Article 14C of the School Code, an English learner is any student in preschool through 12th grade whose home language background is a language other than English and whose proficiency in speaking, reading, writing, or understanding English is not yet sufficient to provide the student with the ability to meet the state's proficient level of achievement on state assessments, the ability to successfully achieve in classrooms where the language of instruction is English, or the opportunity to participate fully in a school setting. Per the Illinois School Code, all students who qualify for language support services have the legal right to receive them. The purpose of multilingual services for students who qualify for English language services is to increase their English language proficiency through English as a second language, which is specialized instruction designed to develop skills in English language proficiency across the 4 language domains of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. It is also to develop content area learning in their native language and as well as in English. And that is focused on sheltered English instruction using specific strategies to make content comprehensible, as well as develop bilingualism through participation in our dual language program. And bilingualism here is referring to biliteracy, the ability to read and write in 2 languages, and biauracy, the ability to understand and speak in 2 languages. When a school district has 20 or more ELs from the same language background, we are required to offer transitional bilingual education. In Round Lake, we have that in every school pre-K through 12th grade. We have 20 or more students who speak Spanish as their home language, so they are required by law to receive instruction in their home language and in English through core academic subjects, as well as English as the second language. When a district has fewer than 19 or fewer English learners from the same language background, we are required to offer a transitional program of instruction. This is predominantly delivered in English with native language support as needed. And for our district, these would be students who are coming from different language backgrounds other than English and Spanish. So Polish, Ukrainian, Gujarati, and we do offer this program at all of our schools in pre-K through 12. This slide shows the instructional design options within both the transitional bilingual education and transitional program of instruction model. The design that we can have those programs in is a self-contained or a collaborative model. Self-contained here is referring to the students that are comprised in the classroom. So if they are all Spanish speakers or speakers of other languages, they're in one classroom together. and that would be called self-contained. We do offer that as a transitional program of instruction in grades 5 through 12, and then our TPI students have access to that through content courses that are taught with English language development with sheltered instruction as well as ESL. And we also offer a collaborative model in grades pre-K through 12, and this is looking at the students in the classroom. So there's half of the students are identified as English learners, and half of the students are identified as non-English learners, so they'd be native English speakers. And a language specialist is providing support through a co-teaching or resource model. We also have a one-way dual language program. I'll explain in the next few slides in more detail what that looks like. And that is also under the umbrella of self-contained because all of the students in that program are identified as English learners. We do not currently have a two-way dual language program in our district. When we began bilingual education, we started as a transitional bilingual education model. And as more research came out about dual language programs, we implemented that in 2019. We chose the one-way program because of the number of English learners we have in our district, and we're required by law to have bilingual education for those students first. So our goal would be to open a two-way dual language program if there's interest in the community to do so. And each year that we open a new grade level for our one-way program, it will replace the TBE self-contained model. So next year when we expand to 5th grade bilingual, this slide would change. We would no longer offer the transitional bilingual program. It would be replaced with dual language, which is a better model. So what is dual language then? According to Dual Language Education of New Mexico, dual language is a form of bilingual education in which students are taught literacy, that would be English language arts, and in our district, Spanish language arts, and content in the two languages. So they would learn math, science, and social science across their years in the dual language program in both English and Spanish. There was a study conducted in 2021 from the American Council's Research Center that surveyed different schools across the nation, and they discovered that there was roughly 3,600 dual language immersion programs across the United States. Predominantly Spanish was the most popular, and you can imagine this is probably increased now that we are in 2023 school year. So in Round Lake, we inspire and empower students to construct a thriving future. Our dual language programming focuses on empowering language learners to develop Spanish and English bilingualism, high academic achievement, and sociocultural competence through rigorous academic expectations, as well as culturally relevant educational experiences in order to succeed in a multicultural society and global economy. So this slide shows the different bilingual programs along with the students that are served in the linguistic goals. You see lots of different color faces here, and for the purpose of this example, we're going to be using the partner language of Spanish, which is represented within our dual language program. So you will see that a green face represents native language instruction, higher Spanish proficiency, and a blue face is representing students coming from an English-speaking home where they would have higher English-speaking proficiency. About 85% of students entering the elementary schools in our country have been exposed to 2 or more languages from birth. So that is where you see the blended face with a little blue and a little bit green. That's representing that these students have been bilingual since the time they are born. They're living in our country, so even if they have Spanish spoken at home, there's a strong influence of English through our society and living in the United States. So those students are represented with the multicolored face. And when you look at the different bilingual program options, there are 3 different dual language programs. The first one on the graph is the two-way immersion program. These programs focus on serving students whose home language is Spanish and English, with about 50% of the class being half and half. It can go up to 2/3 of the class speaking Spanish as their higher proficiency language, and English about 1/3 as well. And then we also have students who are not they are multi-generational. They're not coming from another country as their first year, so they're represented with the multicolored face. The linguistic goal in a two-way immersion program is that all students become bilingual and biliterate in both English and Spanish. The one-way immersion program, also known as developmental bilingual education, is only working with students in the classroom who have Spanish as a home language. We know now that there are a lot of students who are born speaking both languages, they're bilingual, so we also have the mixed color phase there. The goal of this program is for students to be bilingual in both English and Spanish. There's also a one-way immersion program, also known as a world language immersion program. We do not see this program in Illinois. It is more popular in Utah, out of the Mormon community, where the group of students that are in this program are predominantly English speaking, and they're learning another language as part of the missionary work they do in other countries. So the goal of that, again, is to be proficient in whatever their partner language is, as well as English. We also have a bilingual program, which is called the Transitional Bilingual Education Model. This is specific for students who speak Spanish as a home language or are simultaneous bilinguals. The difference with this program is that Spanish is used to build foundational literacy skills and content knowledge, and as students go through the program, more and more English is introduced. So you'll notice that this is the only bilingual program where the goal is to remove the home language and replace it with English. So the goal is to have English language proficiency only in this program. We're going to explore in a few slides the benefits of dual language compared to this program model. So though we did begin our bilingual education program as this model, we are moving towards replacing it with a one-way dual language program. This slide is similar, but all of the faces are different colors, so they are representing students of different home languages. The blue still represents English. In this case, we offer a transitional program of instruction where a student is in a monolingual English-speaking classroom and they're receiving additional language support through a bilingual or ESL certified resource teacher or through a co-teaching model. The linguistic goal here is English proficiency because that is the common language across all of the student language groups. We also offer world language, which is starting in grade 7 in our district. We offer this in Spanish and French. And students predominantly go into this program if they're trying to add a second language, so their native language might be English. But we also have a lot of students whose home language is Spanish and they're interested in learning French. Or we have students whose home language is another language and they're interested in learning French or Spanish. So the goal of this program, you'll notice, is a slightly partial proficiency because it's only one period a day. It's not an immersed program, so the ability to become fully bilingual there would not happen unless they continued on in a university or a study abroad program. We also offer a general program of instruction placement, and this is basically being placed in a monolingual English classroom with no additional language support. We do that through parent request if a parent does not want to accept language services. So the benefits of bilingual education. This graph has a lot of great information on it and is used often to show the differences between the program achievement. So Dr. Wayne Thomas and Dr. Virginia Collier have worked for over 40 years as professors and researchers studying the field of dual language education. And they're internationally known for their research on long-term school effectiveness for multilingual learners. This particular graph demonstrates English language learner long-term K-12 achievement in normal curve equivalence on standardized tests in English reading compared across 7 program models. A normal curve equivalent is a standardized score that is used to compare student scores across years and grades and subjects. So you'll see at the top 2 lines are green. These represent dual language programs. The very top line is a 2-way dual language program, and the next line is representative of a 1-way dual language program. The blue and black lines represent transitional bilingual education, and the brown and red lines represent a traditional English as a second language program only, where there is no native language support.
Ms. Knapp, can you just spend a little bit more time, just briefly, talking about why we don't implement 2-way in Round Lake?
Yes, so as you saw on the previous slide, we have 41% of our students whose home language is Spanish. So it was difficult to implement a 2-way when we first started the bilingual program because we didn't always have enough non-Spanish speakers in every single grade level at each school. So in order to do that, we would have to first make sure we have a well-established one-way program so that all of the students who qualify for bilingual education can be in that program first as their legal right to access bilingual education. And then if there's community interest, we would be able to open a two-way program. And based on that interest, we'd have to analyze, would that be offered at every school? Would it be some districts that are similar to ours? They run these programs simultaneously, but there's a lottery to get into the two-way program, and there's limited seats. And then for all of the other students, there's also a one-way program running as well.
Yeah, I had the two-way in my last district, and it was basically the English only native English speakers. I think starting in first grade, kindergarten, it was a 90-10 ratio. The instruction started out in Spanish, then it went 80-20, 70-30, 40. And one of the challenges you face over time is if you have attrition in the program, you don't have balance when those kids are in fifth grade, because you can't take a move-in, let's say in fourth grade, and place them in the two-way program because they're so far behind. In our district, even I think over time, it would be very, very challenging. I think if we ran a dual way, it would have to be almost like a magnet program. You would probably agree with that.
Yes.
To run, we would have to do it in maybe one school, and versus just because of the student population. So I didn't know. I just wanted to make sure we didn't skip over that piece.
And we also don't want to assume that every single parent wants to have their child in a dual language program. So if they have the right to be able to commit to that program. So when we're looking at enrollment numbers, we would want to make sure we have enough seats for everybody that requires it first, and then also have the opportunity to do a lottery to get into the two-way program. But looking at this achievement data, you can see that in the ESL pullout or taught through traditional content, at the very early appears that students are developing English language proficiency rapidly in grades 1 through 3, and then it tapers off as the demand for academic language increases and you have more technical subject vocabulary that's being used in the middle school and high school grade levels. And the foundation there for students is more challenging when they're learning in an English-only model. You'll notice that in the transitional bilingual programs, this is the one that we're currently trying to phase out of our district each year that we expand dual language. It is performing better than the ESL programs, but it still doesn't meet that 50th percentile. The only programs that are proven to close the achievement gap are dual language programs. On the next slide, I purposely covered this slide just to draw your attention into the early grades. And what you'll notice here is that in no grade before fifth grade does any program model for English learners reach the 50th percentile. And that's important to call out because it takes about 5 to 7 years to learn another language. So though dual language has amazing benefits for our students and families, we're not going to see those benefits in our achievement data until later years of middle school and high school. So just something to keep in mind when we're looking at student achievement data. I promise I'm not going to read everything on this slide. I'm going to highlight a few benefits on the upcoming slides, but I wanted to point out here that the Office of English Language Acquisition created these really neat infographics that are looking at the benefits of multilingualism across 4 categories: cognitive, educational, economic, and sociocultural. And those are actually links to the infographic on the slide for both English and Spanish. Some of the benefits cognitively for being bilingual is bilinguals outperform monolinguals in executive functioning, and being bilingual may also delay cognitive decline. So as you age, you may reduce your ability to have dementia or Alzheimer's. Some educational advantages is that dual language is the only proven program for students who are English learners to outperform and reach the 50th percentile, but it is also associated with increased high school graduation rates among children of immigrants. Bilingualism also has some economic advantages because it increases promotion opportunities within jobs, and it also helps maintain job security. This can in turn turn into higher salaries for people who are bilingual. And there are sociocultural advantages as well. Bilinguals can understand other world cultures, it increases their empathy of different cultures, and it improves their own self-identity. Another added benefit is when you get to the high school, you are able to obtain the seal of biliteracy or the commendation toward biliteracy. And this high level award is given to graduating seniors who demonstrate proficiency in a partner language and in English. And it can be used towards credit at a university as well as on resumes for job opportunities. So future program development, we are in the process of continuing to expand our one-way dual language program. The neat thing about being a unit district is we are able to offer this all the way up through 12th grade. And one of the pillars of dual language is you want to have it at least for 6 years. And we have the opportunity to offer this to all the way up to 12th grade for our students. The one thing that may potentially change this timeline are various factors such as teacher licensure and budget. This year, we are going to be working with Adelante Educational Specialist Group. We will have a dual language leadership team coming together once a month for 5 sessions to really analyze the goals of the dual language program and look at areas of strengths that we have in our current program and areas for improvement. And with that, we'll be developing a 3-year action plan, which includes expansion into the middle school. And we would also want to survey our community and have community meetings to explain what a 2-way program might look like. And then based on the interest of the community, decide if we are able to move forward with a 2-way program and develop an action plan and timeline for implementation. That concludes my presentation. What questions do you have?
Before the question comes, this will give the board more wait time for the questions. I want to thank Ms. Knapp for, we've never had a presentation like this in a board meeting. Given the significant size of our EL population, I think it's just really important to kind of reinforce that we're doing everything possible to give the kids the support they ought to have. Compliance is very, very important, and I feel so good about Ms. Knapp's knowledge of what the law requires, what our kids need, what the program should look like in her team. It was not that way when I started in this district. So I'm looking around the room. I know others in here remember that. So I'm very appreciative of the teaching and learning team and the work you put together to present this to the board. I know it's pretty technical information, but I thought you did a really good job of kind of summarizing it. So I just want to thank the team. So.
Any questions you guys have? I see one going, Scott. Use your mic. Use your mic.
Mr. Jewett, yeah, use your.
I know. I need time off mic to process. I really appreciate this. I love the little colored smiley faces. They really helped me. Thank you very much. Didn't help as much prior to the presentation, but it certainly helped now. So we got this right based on the interjection about, so mine is, I completely understand the one way, and there is an intrigue in the 2-way. For me, more of it's about what would that look like. And the part that makes that difficult to potentially do, if I hear this right, is because of the quantity of students that are EL students, the bandwidth is one potential reason for not doing dual, or it just makes it more complicated because of the fluidity of the students that would come in and out of the program. Is that correct?
It's a little bit of both. So it's looking at what is the interest from families who have a home language of English. What is their interest in being a part of the program? And as Dr. Mendoza mentioned, sometimes throughout the years they may start really strong in kindergarten, first, second grade, and then they no longer want to continue. And though districts do try to have that be a commitment, if you have students dropping out in the upper grades, it ends up becoming more like a one-way dual language program. And dual language is really built first as a bilingual education model. So you do have to have enough English speaking students in the program to be able to sustain a two-way program.
Okay, got it. And then the second question I had was about the 30 languages. So you're saying right now we have 30 languages
Currently, yes.
currently,
Mhm.
and in each of those languages, there is a requirement for the ESL.
Yes, so the focus is on English language development for students who have a different home language. In our district, we do not have a large number of students that speak other languages. So across the district, it might be less than 50. And because of that, because they're attending different schools and different grade levels, it really isn't possible to have like another Russian bilingual program or Polish bilingual program because there isn't enough students in the same spot to provide the native language in a bilingual manner.
But there would still be required native language support. What does that look like?
Great question. So sometimes we can use like online translating or AI, or there's ability to show a video clip about a content or a science experiment in their native language through using technology predominantly. Because if you don't speak the home language, you can still invite the home language in from the students, but you wouldn't maybe necessarily be using it in your direct instruction. It would be more resources that you're pulling together. We also offer language books in different languages in our libraries for students to be able to continue their home language development.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent question, Scott. I think you covered all the ones I was thinking of. Any others? No? Awesome, thank you. All right, strategic plan monthly update for September.
Yep, just a couple things to highlight. As you can imagine, we are in full swing with partner school planning. So theme A, surveys have gone out to staff because as you remember, the student from Pleviac come back, there's going to be a significant shift of staff. That's been done. Significant progress on planning for the EEC construction project. You'll be hearing more about that at a future meeting in terms of construction and how that's going to proceed. Theme D, we are about to start the staff interviews as follow-up to the climate culture survey. Heather, when are the actual interviews?
Actually, a few of them started last week, so they're continuing over the next couple weeks.
So as we indicated before, we're going to be bringing that back to you just to update you with the interviews specifically are on student discipline. If you remember, there was a question about enforcement of disciplinary processes and procedures. And then theme F, hopefully we'll be coming back to you with good news, but we were asked to apply for a state level recruitment and retention grant. It's $175,000 a year times 3 years. There was a special state allocation driven by Governor Pritzker. We were one of the districts eligible. They used some formula based on the number of vacant positions you have. And then last but not least, Ms. Bennett and I have a meeting with the facilitator of the strategic plan we used last time. We're just going to talk to him more about what next steps might be. This is obviously going to be a board decision. But one of the things that he's incorporated, and I am going to compliment 117, is we really like what they've done in 117. He's the same facilitator, but they've incorporated Portrait of a Graduate. Essentially, that's a graphic designed to show what the attributes are of kids that exit our system. He's done a really nice job of integrating that into the planning, so we're going to talk to him about that, and then some other things with respect to some measurable outcomes, but we'll bring back options for you to consider. I would say Dr. Porto did the last process. I do like his style. It provides us some structure within a framework. And to be frank, I think we have a really, really good mission statement. It's brief, it's easy. I mean, I remember it. I'm not going to quiz the team on my left, but they better remember it. But we also have really good, if you look at the core values and beliefs of our existing strategic plan, there's only 5 of them and they're really hard to argue with. So really, in my humble opinion, I think the effort should be focused on the strategy, the outcomes, and obviously through the committee and board input where the energy and focus is going to be for the next few years. So we'll be bringing that back to you at probably one of the October meetings. So that concludes the strategic plan update.
All right, sir, what are we throwing out this month?
We have an extensive list of things we'll be throwing out this month. I did want to call the attention of the board to two exciting new columns on the spreadsheet. The first asking if we would be seeking to sell this item, and then if so, what cost or estimated cost they believe they would get for that. Should there be any items that do have a yes, I would reach out to that principal and call that item out specifically in the memo attached to this sheet. So I just want to bring that to your attention and see if there are any other questions or feedback.
I just wanted to add, thank you for the changes to the sheet based on feedback from previous meetings.
Happy to do it.
Any questions? Okay. Moving on, review of the FOIA report. Everybody looked at it. Any questions? Okay, moving on. Review of contracts less than 1,000. We don't have any. Yay! Moving on. We're getting along here. All right, opportunity for public comment. Members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or by submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Electronic public comments are accepted up till noon on the day of the scheduled regular meeting. The public commenter will be contacted to confirm identity. Once confirmed, the electric public comment will be provided to all board members in written form. Any electronic public comments? None. Given our vast array of public here today, I see no public comments. We don't have any. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. The following donations have been made to the district and schools. In accordance with board policy, we're informing the school board of these donations at this time. Thank you letters will be prepared. Referenced this last week, but a donation of $20,000 was made for the Community Field Trip Initiative. Again, I want to call out and thank Jess Crone, our Director of Teaching and Learning, for putting that proposal together. The donation was made by the John and Kathy Schreiber Foundation, so we're very, very grateful. We'd like to extend a sincere thank you to the Chicago Bears for their interest in partnership with Round Lake High School on Friday, September 29th for homecoming. Last week, members of the Chicago Bears creative department and staff photographer visited with some of our Round Lake design students to create the 2023 Latino Heritage Game of the Week logo. A variety of special activities will take place on September 29th involving students and families. A list of detailed events will be shared with the board and community members as final details are finalized this week. And for your convenience, we have included several upcoming events for your consideration and just wanted to provide a gentle reminder to the school board that this Saturday we have the homecoming parade in the morning. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Most excellent. Mrs. McGinley, anything for
Yes,
the
good
finance?
evening. Sorry, go ahead.
No, the floor is yours for the Finance Committee report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Finance met earlier this evening with Mr. DeBera there in person and me here in Seattle. There's 2 items I'd like to go over with the board for the report out, and the other items I will go over as we go through them on the agenda. The first one being the anticipated 1.0 FTE special education teaching assistant at the Transition Center. The transition center on our property. Currently, we have 2 classrooms with 13 students, with each having a teaching assistant. We have a 3rd classroom with 8 students, and should this classroom reach 9, we are required to provide a TA. So the asset administration has brought forward is in anticipation of that classroom reaching 9. So with they're wanting the support so that they can start to gather a pool of candidates for this position. And this would be at a cost of $52,322 coming out of district funds. The other item, as we've talked earlier regarding the high school main gen sound system, in the last finance meeting, we had asked some questions in regards to what the request would be, wanting to make sure we meet all the needs should we move forward with this request. In the packet, if the board has time, they'll want to review that. So this will go out to bid shortly. Mr. Kozak will bring this back and we'll see what the bids come back at. And as we will move forward, you'll see there's a long list of fiscal 24 large scale projects. So we'll have to see again what this comes back with and how this might fit into fiscal year 24. Mr. DeVera, anything to add?
I do not.
And that's it for finance.
Awesome, thank you. And it's time for us to approve some open meeting minutes.
I need a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 5th, 2023, special meeting, expulsion hearing at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 11th, 2023, regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Miss Lee. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Abstain.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 11th, 2023, board special meeting, public hearing, interfund transfer.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Abstain.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
On to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items. The accounts payable report for $692,439.93. The previous motions report for $149,589.70. The August 2023 treasurer's report, the August 2023 P card report, the September 18th, 2023 employment report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Old business, I need a motion to approve the fiscal 2024 budget as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
New business, I need a motion to approve the disposal of the identified milk coolers and approve the sale of the identified milk coolers to Prairie Farms in the amount of $15,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. De Vera. Can I have a roll call, please?
Oh, if I could, Ms. Larson from Finance,
Absolutely.
just to provide some context. This was discussed in the last finance meeting, and again, this is to move the ownership of the milk coolers to Prairie Farms. Again, taking that off the district. In the contract review, the only thing the Finance Committee brought forward was in the contract, it notes that we must vacuum the condenser. So we brought that up to administration, so they have put a protocol in place so that does happen, so we're in compliance with that contract.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the contract to have DJ Fly Tie work the 2023 RLHS homecoming event in the amount of $1,600 paid out of the RLHS student activity account.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Any comments or questions?
If I could, this was on the Finance Committee agenda earlier today. This is a new DJ. If the board recalls, we had issues with the DJ last year at homecoming. So this is a new DJ, and we've also made sure administration takes proper protocols in preserving the gym floor so we don't have any issues like last year.
Awesome. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve 1.0 FTE itinerant ESL teacher.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. De Vera. Questions or comments?
If I could, again, this was on the finance agenda. This is a unfunded state mandate where we need 1.0 FTE itinerant teacher as a second language ESL teacher for the school year. So again, this will be at a cost of $80,000 out of district funds.
All righty. Roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Motion carries. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Got distracted by the person rolling past us outside.
I need a motion to approve the contract with Securely to implement e-hall pass at Round Lake High School, Round Lake Middle School, and McGee Middle School in the amount of $8,401.25.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. De Vera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Questions and comments?
Again, this was at the finance meeting. Again, this is going to be an electronic hall pass. The high school and the two middle schools wanting to use this as intervention in a way to monitor students. At the high school, they'll be using this in the fine arts and the PE. The middle schools will be using this in various areas in their building. This will be more of a soft launch at that cost of $8,401. We have asked the high school and middle schools to bring back information to the implementation and the results of this e-hall pass. There are other schools even within our conference that use this that have seen great success. One of the other comments or questions from finance was, with this implementation, even as a soft launch, how will our substitute teachers be made aware of using this? And there is a way for students to initiate the e-hall pass and the sub approve it. Again, it's just making sure our administration gives that communication to our substitutes. But this seems like this will be a very good program for the 2 middle schools and the high schools.
There's definitely a learning curve because we use it. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. DeVere?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Good luck, yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the contract related documents for cheer choreography in the amount of $2,875 coming out of the high school athletics budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeVera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Questions or comments?
Yes, thank you. Again, as we know, our cheer team competes yearly and they do a performance for homecoming. So this is a yearly contracts that come up for the cheer team and choreography. We are working with Mr. Karolzak and making sure that he brings his yearly contracts forward as we do with teaching and learning and the rest of administration, so we can start reviewing these annually.
All right, can I have a roll call?
Mr. DeVere?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes. And thank you for including the background check. I thought that was nice.
That's okay. Motion carries. I noticed it too.
The next item is fiscal year large scale projects. It's up for discussion. This was also at the finance agenda meeting, but I believe Dr. Lamping will be presenting.
Yes, thank you. Each fall, we bring forward the large-scale projects that we'd like to do. We've highlighted a number that we'd really like your support on. A number of those already have funding sources behind them. So I'd like to go through them quickly and answer any questions you have. The first couple that we really like to get your support on is the Murphy Elementary elevator. Murphy is the only multi-level school that we have in our district that does not have an elevator. It is out of ADA compliance. Our students have to go outside in order to get through the multi-levels. Our architect that we have been working on that and get different plans for that have identified 1.2 million. That includes installation and the elevator itself. It's a 9 to 10 month lead to get the elevator. So we'd like to put in an order for it in fiscal year 24 for installation in fiscal year 25. So that would be district reserves needed for that. Murphy Elementary School is also the only elementary school that doesn't have its own cafeteria. So our students eat in the gym. That also eats into the physical education instructional time. They have to move to half the gym. It also means that those students have struggled to get, do full school events in the cafeteria, instructional and or social events. So we would like to try to combine those installations and both do them in fiscal year 25. The architect has identified a $2.6 million price tag for that in fiscal year 25. Doing those projects together would allow that to be one construction company. So we would save some money there. Public address system, when we did the RLAS training, one of the big issues has been making sure that everyone can hear announcements throughout the entire building, including outside. We do have a number of dead spots throughout our buildings. We do have DCEO, that's a grant. We do have $180,000 identified in DCO, but when we looked for our original solve for that. We were gonna use our IP phones, but that would not work if the internet went down. So we had to find another resolution. And that resolution is gonna cost more money. So we are looking at additional district reserves that would be needed for that, approximately $100,000 to $110,000. That's approximate right now. But that would make sure that we could have full coverage even if the internet went down. Roof replacement at the Early Childhood Center, we have a $525,000 already identified in the DCO grant. That project is to be done this summer while the pre-K construction grant is getting completed. The warehouse build-out is not highlighted. That is a project, we do own the warehouse, but we have not really been able to make that a functional warehouse where we have our staff in it and, where we are using it for our deliveries, et cetera. We are using it basically for storage at this point. It's a $600,000 anticipated, but we would like to keep that on your mind to be able to do that. Roof and RTU replacement, that again is not highlighted. When you heard VP's presentation, when we built out the 8 classrooms and the library at Beach, he mentioned to you that the roof needs to be replaced and the RTUs replaced at Beach. This is the price tag to do that. The roof is very tight and will snap because it's spread out very thin. We want to just keep that on your mind, that eventually has to be done. This is a typo, but the mechanic's trench drain, where our mechanic does all the bus repairs and all the car repairs, is a safety hazard. It is there since the building has been built. We do have money allocated for that. It's scheduled to be done starting in May. The minute that the school is done, that's $75,000. That's automatically ready to go. Fire alarm panel replacement, $370,000 has been allocated in the DCO grant. Right now, Beach is our brand new fire alarm that has been taken, the first one off of Simplex. We have now gone to Navigator. So we are going to be now moving Ellis and Village will be our next 2 that will go off the Simplex system. We're going to be planning on getting those bid documents ready to go and hopefully doing that work over the summer. The mobile placement, as a result of making that change over to partner school model, we now have already purchased the 2 classroom with bathrooms, mobile that needs to be brought into the district and placed in a location. So we will be now Mark will be working on getting all the foundational work and the electrical and the plumbing all connected to that mobile. So that is the cost. That'll be identified in the fiscal 24 budget assumptions. Asphalt parking lot and concrete sidewalk repair. We did spend a large chunk of the DCO money on Indian Hill and Round Lake Middle School parking lots, which look fabulous. We do have some money left. We're trying to get as many full parking lots done as we possibly can. We've got 2. We'd like to do the other portion of Beach, the front and the sidewalk. We believe that we can get that done in that $100,000. So now we could get Beach completely done. So that would be done with that remaining funds. We do know that the softball and baseball field is another need in our district. We know that that's right now at a price tag of about $3.6 million. We're waiting on additional information from our architects to try to get that number down a little bit. So we want them to fine tune some of those numbers. We will bring that back to you. I do have about $200,000 I've carved out in the O&M budget. We do know there are a lot of parking lot needs, including the high school. Ellis is still remaining, McGee is still remaining, the other half of Murphy is still remaining. So we will utilize this money around at other places in the district and try to get additional parking lot asphalt done and sidewalks done. The master clock system, we will be doing all of the master clocks to get out of Simplex. We want to get out of the Simplex clock system so we can control our own clocks. We will be sending out to all the schools to them for them to confirm the instructional spaces around our district and sending in the order form into the co-op that you approved that Dr. Kimmons had you approve, so that we can place our order and start the installation process there. That will be coming out of the O&M funds. And then if we, run into any problems, we might have to seek additional funds at the end of the year, but we're hoping not. So those are the major projects we'll be doing over the course of this year and into this summer. Thank you.
The one area I just wanted to call out for the board, we talked about it at finance, is the two areas, the Murphy projects. It's not, on projects like those, it's not realistic to expect for the annual budget that we're able to come up with $3.8 million. So I think one of the things I shared at finance, and this is obviously a board decision, but you know, something like that, we really do need to do it. That would come out of reserves. I think that's the benefit of being fiscally healthy. It'd be a one-time expense. And really that is no different than when you decided to do the athletic project. You took money out of your savings account, used it. And so I think we're bringing it to you now, even though I think the years bleed into 25, is there's a long lead time on the elevator. So I just, Mr. DeVera and Ms. McGinley, didn't know if you wanted to comment on that. But I want to thank you, Dr. Lamping and Mr. Varick, for putting this list together and getting it out in front of us so early, which helps because we know there's lead time on a bunch of these projects.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mendoza. If I could just add, and I don't know if Dr. Lamping, did you mention that all the ones that are highlighted, those are the ones we're looking to do and complete between grants, your budget, and budget reserves, district reserves?
That's correct.
And so as Dr. Mendoza said, Murphy specifically, the elevator and the cafeteria, these have been a conversation at the board table for several years. And I know we mentioned this at finance, the Murphy elevator cafeteria, we had this conversation back from when Mr. Johnston was here, and we had hoped to use a grant that we had then, but that cost came back well past what we could support financially. And finance is in support, and again, being fiscally responsible and prudent as we have, we can support doing the elevator and the cafeteria.
Yep, I have nothing to add there, so.
Right. So we need a motion?
No, that's just for discussion.
Info?
Yeah, just for discussion.
Yeah.
Probably should have been on the communications part, because we're not necessarily bringing the full boat back and having you approve them as a bundle. If we do the projects, they'll come individually.
All right, so then we get to move on to positive occurrences. Any positive occurrences?
So can I just make sure that they have full support from the board, because they want to order these parts for the elevator for Murphy?
We have lots of head shaking here.
Okay.
Yes, lots of nodding.
Thank you.
Affirmative. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's a positive, because we've been talking about getting that elevator forever.
It is.
So thinking about the timing of that, will that be prior to or the same time that the change? Okay, you know where I'm going.
Year after.
Okay, so we did have a competition, the band, and they did place third, and I thought it was one of the best shows they've ever done. It was really clean and tight, and I was, again, just so proud of them, so I'm calling that out. I just thought it was beautiful. We had actually Annette there as well, and there was a lot of people there representing Round Lake, so.
I live streamed it from my bed.
After work.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Ms. Klingler said. The band had a competition this past weekend. They did really well, and it is, as always, represent Round Lake well. Last Friday was the middle school band and choir that joined our high school band and choir. And it was nice to see all the students out there and the collaboration, again, between middle schools and high school.
Anybody else? All right, we're moving on. Future agenda items, anybody got anything?
I just wanted to follow up quickly. Dr. Apgar sent the list of students in the various CEDAL programs. We'll make sure we get something scheduled. So I'll have Genera contact you. Was it Laremont? Is that where we're probably going to go? So I think we've selected the one building. I'm sorry, Mr. DeVera.
No,
Pass
that's
it off to
fine.
you.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I know I'd mentioned it to you, you and I kind of chatted briefly, but just to bring it back up. I don't know where this falls, operations, athletics, combination of both. A lot of traffic on the field, which is great. That's why we built it. Everybody's using it. It's perfect. Maintenance. I want to make sure it's getting maintained properly so it lasts the full time. Wear spots, things like that, brushings, all that good stuff. Field turf, regulated or regimented, I guess is the better word. Because a quick search on their site shows you kind of a schedule. And I don't know if anything's been done. I'd like to see if there's any records or what has been done.
Yes, so we'll get details for you. I did follow up with Mr. McDowell and the Field Turf Company in terms of where we'll bring something more comprehensive back. They actually have been out here every summer walking the field. Because they actually then recommend where the fill needs to go, the pellets.
Perfect.
And at this point in time, they've not made one recommendation, so we're in good shape, but we'll bring something back to you.
All right, thank you.
Anything else?
Can I go back to Dr. Mendoza with CEDAL and visiting Laremont?
Yes, ma'am.
I know in the weekly report that Ms. Bennett sent, they added the transition center. I would love the opportunity to visit the transition center as well. It's been a while since I've had that opportunity.
Consider it done. We'll arrange that too.
Thank you.
Our transition center, right? Or see, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just checking, because CEDAL's got one too, so. Yeah, Scott's got a tour guide for us if we need one. All right, we're ready to approve some closed session minutes then.
I think we have to, oh yeah,
Yes,
you're
I need
correct. My apologies, Ms. McGinley.
Sure.
Nope, I think you're
okay to go?
you're all set, Ms. McGinley, to call.
Okay, all right,
It's
thank
my
you.
apologies.
Nope. I need a motion to approve the closed session minutes of the September 5th, 2023 special meeting, expulsion hearing 5 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. DeVera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session minutes of the September 5th, 2023 special meeting, expulsion hearing 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. DeVera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Is that all the closed session minutes we needed?
Those are the ones, yes, and then there will be approvals when we come out of closed.
Now we can convene in closed session. I need a motion to convene in closed session as permitted by Illinois Statute 120, for the purpose of discussing exception 2C1 employment matters, exception 2C5 real estate matters, and exception 2C21 closed meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries. We're going to go into closed session, so y'all can go home now. Motion by Klingler, seconded by DeVera. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yep.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carried.
To approve the closed session meeting minutes of March 20th, 2023, regular board meeting.
Second.
Motion by Klingler, seconded by Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yep.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
And we carry.
Need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of April 10th, 2023, regular board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Roll call.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yep.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of April 17th, 2023, regular board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Lee, seconded by Klingler. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yep.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of April 26th, 2023, special meeting hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
To approve the closed session meeting minutes of May 1st, 2023, regular board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Lee, seconded by Klingler. Motion,
Mr.
Roll call.
Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the May 1st, 2023, special board meeting expulsion hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Klingler, seconded by DeVera. Roll call.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of a May 11th, 2023, special board meeting expulsion hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeVera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
To approve the closed session meeting minutes of May 15th, 2023, regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Approve the closed session meeting minutes of May 23rd, 2023 special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Can I have a roll?
Mr. Dever,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes. Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of May 24th, 2023 special board meeting expulsion hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. Dever,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes. Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of June 26th, 2023 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Dever,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes. Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of July 17th, 2023 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mrs. Klingler.
Mr. Dever,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes. Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of August 7th, 2023 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. Rivera. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. Dever,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes. Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of September 5th, 2023 special board meeting expulsion hearing 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Can I have a roll call?
Mr. Dever,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes. And that we've gone off the rail.
I'm sorry,
Motion
did the
carries, sorry.
pass?
It did. It passed.
Okay. Last one.
Last
I need
one.
a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of September 11th, 2023 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. Rivera.
Mr. Dever,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you, Annette, for putting up with us because they have lost their minds. They are totally off the rails. And we're adjourned for the